So, you've met me at a very Chinese time? Well, I'm glad you're here. You've got to do the following, though, to be the real Chinese person. First of all, throw trash all over the ground. Everywhere you go. Forced to do physical routines by your employer because workers' rights are so protected in a communist country. Drive and own an explosive new energy vehicle from China. Manufactured domestically. Be mean to wildlife wherever you go, whichever country you're in. Chinamaxxing.
Where are you guys from?
China.
China?
Yeah.
In China, you guys throw out dirt at the animals too?
Oh, sorry. I already threw the pig.
You guys, I'm not going to give you a citation, but you guys need to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and go home. Okay, thank you.
I didn't even realize.
Argue at the gas station because you have to jump the queue and get your car filled first. Endorse cheap but very dangerous things like products like these electric cables.
这个呀，就是你们在外面要花50-60才买到的多功能长线插座，来到我们的源头工厂，根本不需要那么贵。
视频同款插排就买回了啊！这是后台一个粉丝让帮忙测的，到手价4块9毛9。我们先来看一下它这个线结不结实，看，稍微一用力就断了啊！咱们来看一下它这个胶皮，看一拔就下来了啊！看这什么玩意儿这是？看这也太垃圾了吧，根本都不用力的。再来看一下这个线啊，看，轻轻一拔就下来了，我去，根本都不用力的。我去，这哪是什么阻燃材料啊？看一下，一点就着了啊！
Of course, hike the Great Walls of China, only to find that the stone stillet is actually fake.
What the frick? It's just fiberglass, bro. I thought it was a real rock. I was gonna take a picture with this rock to celebrate that we came all the way here to the Hushan part of the Great Wall of China. It's fake. It's fake like this whole entire city.
Fancy a Chinamaxxing dinner meal? Come to the countryside. Share a workers' protest where they try to claw back the wage that are owed by their employers. Enjoy mutant strawberries from China? Chinamaxxing. So this trend, I don't know what Chinamaxxing really means, but it's basically doing all these things, basic stuff, right? Like what Chinese people apparently do. And it's cool now. Drinking hot water in the morning instead of cold water, making tea with jujube dates and goji berries, maybe even wear slippers indoors now. I don't know, just maybe even speak a few words of Mandarin. Okay, that's Chinamaxxing. It was this left-wing socialist influencer trendy thing that got started, I guess, with Hassan Piker when he went to China, which obviously I think it's this coordinated effort, but I actually think it's probably the most racist thing that they've done towards Chinese people. Like, oh, this is all your culture really is. It's just jujube dates and hot water. Of course, you know, the CCP loves it. Piggybacking off of this, they're using this viral social trend and basically what is essentially like everyday habits of Asians to paint itself in a positive light. And you know what real Chinamaxxing is? Alysa Liu versus Eileen Gu. So Eileen Gu's mother is actually, I believe, the real Chinamaxxer, literally maximizing greed and profit using her own daughter as a marketing product. Meanwhile, Alysa and her father, Arthur Liu, has brought back some reputational damage done by Chinese people themselves after what most of the people from China would essentially have done is trash their own credibility in all fronts. I came across this video on Instagram, and I did respond to it already in a reel, but I just wanted to play it for you here so you get a sense of what I'm trying to say, basically.
I was talking to my dad about the Olympics yesterday, right? And he was saying how since Alysa Liu is having so much great attention and she won gold, maybe this will make Americans look at Chinese people in a positive light. And my response was, Dad, you really think so? Look at how they're treating Eileen Gu. She's also Chinese American, but because she's representing China, the whole narrative about her is a negative light, even though she is the most decorated freestyle skier and she won gold.
And this was my response.
Your dad is right, and here's why people don't like Eileen Gu. It's not because she's Chinese American or whatever, because she's a freaking sellout, and that's it. She chooses to represent a country that has massive human rights violations, persecutes many religious groups. Eileen Gu herself says she's not educated enough on the Uyghur concentration camps, and yet she's fully capable of criticizing the U.S. while representing China. And she does so from this point of an ivory tower, okay? She like sits in there. And she's so different from Alysa Liu, who's very relatable. Doesn't give this PR-trained answer all the time. And she doesn't sound like she is so annoyed at the peasantry that is the average person. And that is Eileen Gu. She is everything that she was brought up with, going against it. Okay, all of the American values, all of the ideas of America she grew up in, benefited from. She has abandoned it to represent a country that's the complete opposite. By the way, the chief adversary of the United States. If she represented Norway or Canada, nobody would say anything. They just think she's an annoying person who does high fashion. But she decided to represent the country. The only people who are doing the damage, the reputational damage to Chinese people in America or other countries are Chinese people themselves. Spying inside the US military for China, going to represent those countries, refusing to talk about the issues. This isn't really about Asians or race, okay? This is not about athletic abilities. This is not anything to do with her as a skier or how many medals she's won. She is playing a key role by shilling for the CCP so that China can continue to do these horrendous things like organ harvesting and persecuting religious minorities, which she refuses to talk about once again. Alysa, on the other hand, her and her father, she was born here, right? But her father went through the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. And just by sheer coincidence, that we are somehow now getting this contradiction, this foil between Alysa and Eileen Gu. Don't make this about sport because Eileen Gu is the one who made it about politics in the first place.
Sorry about the slightly squeaky chipmunk voice because I tried to do it on the app and it somehow sped up and high-pitched up my voice as well. You know, people don't question Eileen Gu because she's a bad athlete. People just don't like the ways that she's doing things because of her, you know, really this villain story, right, that we see today. Now, here's Eileen Gu crying at the press conference because she found out that her grandma, who she frequently claims is an inspiration to her and her reason for skiing, has passed away. And, you know, she publicly said this. Then 3 days later, she's in Milan attending a fashion show and walking the runway. Now, as a Chinese person, shouldn't Eileen be flying to China to see her grandma before she is cremated? or spending the last days with her body before that is going through the funeral procession. Even if she doesn't follow these Chinese customs, out of the respect of her mother and grandma, I think she would probably at least mourn and not be walking a runway. Obviously, to each their own, so I don't fully think that I understand what her family's plan is. I just want to clarify something, okay? I may be pretty harsh to Eileen Gu, but I think the real culprit of all of this is her mother. Here's a video I found from seemingly like a few years ago. This is her training.
你别录我了 I have some basic respect. God. I'm having trouble remembering things. Why are we in China? 是不是要弄那个士兵啊？
So she seems to have suffered a concussion after falling from the jump, and she forgets where she is at the moment. Her mom, instead of comforting her, reminds her that she's in China for the World Championship. Now, we all know this idea of Asian moms being the tiger mom, right? Just fully preparing their child to be the best with harsh methods. But the idea of you orchestrating a 20-something-year-old to this level of selling out is, I think, what be beyond what most people will call, trying to get your child to ace their exams and becoming a doctor, right? This is not China succeeding, in terms of sending their best. This is why I say this is the real Chinamaxxing. This is literally doing the worst things to gain material wealth and sacrificing morals and principles, chasing the bankrolls. Foil that to Alysa's father. By the way, his name, as I found out recently, he actually said he changed it. So his original Chinese name is Liu Junguo, with Guo meaning country. And after he left China after 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, he said that he abbreviated the Guo, or he no longer calls it himself within the Chinese name. He just says Liu Jun now. So because he's been exiled from the country, right? So he no longer has a country. Now, obviously, I think things have changed. He is a proud American citizen, and he shows off his love for the country. Remember in our last video, I shared that there was an event in 2018 where both Eileen Gu and Alysa Liu attended. I said back in that video that there are some accounts out there who are making it like that Alysa and Eileen are childhood friends. That is not the case. Here is Alysa's father disputing that rumor.
哎，有人说她跟那个谷爱凌是闺蜜，是吗？就是一个是帮中路，不是，
我们只是在她得了美国冠军的那一年，在湾区的有一个什么组织举行了一次晚会好像是什么也跟运动方面有关的，我们也就是在那个晚会上见过一面而已并不是很熟我们后来也没有任何联系。
So I'll once again reiterate this, right? Arthur Liu, the father of Alysa Liu, experienced firsthand of the horror of communist China, enough that he would not take communist money. That is the principle. That is decency. That is morals. That is what people are, giving another eye, showing the different side of what they know is Chinese people today. Eileen Gu's mother, on the other hand, benefited from slipping in between the money, the greed, the power, using her daughter, sacrificing the credibility and the reputations of Chinese people to her benefit. That is, unfortunately, Chinamaxxing. And that is what is wrong with the communist education and brainwashing. It's to chase material wealth, give up all your moral values, and in the end, well, let's just say that in most cases it doesn't go well. So I do hope that if they can turn around the ship and sail back to humanity and whatever, it's, I think, much better awaiting for them in a country that is free, because the track record shows no matter how loyal you are to the CCP, there is bound to be a moment where they decide to bring the hammer down on you and you specifically, and that's when things don't go well anymore. Thank you so much for watching this episode on Chinamaxxing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're watching on China Insider, please go and subscribe to our new channels, David on China and David Zhang 360. So I very much appreciate all your support so far, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.